Welcome back on Into the Real with Joseph Lappin. I am Joseph Lappin. Hope you guys are having a great week. And welcome into the Real. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button for me. I'd really appreciate that. It's the best way you can support this channel and help me out. I could use your guys' help. And thank you for all the new subscribers who have subscribed recently on our sports shows and even our Belichick episode a couple weeks ago. I really appreciate that as well. And please hit the like button on here on the way in here today as well. And all that helps support this video, supports this channel, and we really appreciate you guys' support. And so let's get into this one today. And so, you know, I'm sitting around thinking about other topics to talk about outside of sports. Obviously, getting back to what I really do with the mental health side of things and just life in general. And something occurred to me recently along my healing journey, which is, I heard a video from a pastor who talked about how he diminished anxiety, which is really fear, with love, and how love diminishes fear, right? And how oftentimes a lack of love can create a great sense of fear, loneliness, uh, depression, all those things, the negative things. And, I look at a lot of people in society today. I see a lot of people who are trying to find love, chase love, either through a person or through social status, have numbers, all right, all about likes and numbers on their followings and social media. Um, People trying to almost like they want people to envy them in a way, right? People are trying to find that love in a way. And a lot of times it's through people, but right, with through friends, when people have many, many friends, just to have friends, people to talk to, people are trying to find that love, but I think a lot of people are based out of fear, right? Their fear is driving them to feel like they have to hurry up and find that love. They have to, and almost to the point where whoever, if it feels like love, even though it may not be real, that's good enough for them because it's like okay, it helps hide the fear, helps them feel better about themselves, helps them distract themselves from the fear, right? Because that fear could be a dark place. I've been in that place, and that when I heard this video from this pastor, it made sense for me. But speaking for myself, with the kind of love I was missing in my life from my anxiety disorder and all the 10 years of isolation and all the things I went through, really the last couple years getting back out again and finally reconnecting with people and new people and just living my life normally now. Um, you know, that happened to me in high school, having that cut off, my social circle, being around people, that communication, the connection every day with people, community, I it developed more of that fear within me because I had too much time in my mind to sit and think about the things that had happened. I got more depressed, right? I became more fearful and I started to over how do I say over magnify things in my mind. If this makes if you guys get what I'm saying, like you have a fear, you have a traumatic event, you're fearful about something happening again. That was for me, and I have you already have fears within you. My fear was my health anxiety and just a lot of those things. And then when you don't have the community and the support that you need outside of I had my parents, obviously an intermediate family. Well, we all need friends. We need uh, connection. We need all those things, right? And so that are found through love. And so, I was younger. My relationship with the Lord was not where it is now. Obviously, I could say that now because I'm more mature. And so, I belonged to the Lord back then, but I didn't at that young of an age. I didn't really, I was still very young and immature in a lot of ways. And so, I had a lot of fear within me, but I didn't realize until recently in the last year why I had so much of that anger in me and so much I felt lonely a lot of times and just isolated. It was because I was so fearful, but I wasn't having that other balance. I wasn't having that connection through love and just through people and allowing myself to be loved. Really, it wasn't until I did that first video and I saw the people how you guys outreach to me and all the people that knew me throughout my whole life, their support and how they gave and just their support, but also just how real it was. Like if that, what I mean, it just felt like a sense of love and just wholeness and just like people were like, "Hey man, I go through that too," and just thank you and just you really helped me. I'm here for you. It was like a sense of connection. I didn't have that up until that video for a long time in those years, for over 7 years up to that point when I left school because I was away and I wasn't able to. I mean, it's like a lot of people when they go to prison, they get out of prison, they're very hardened. right? And they're very in routine from the prison schedule, and just but they're also just very desensitized and hardened because they just didn't have that, right? They could be socially awkward. Um, when you go through isolation like that, that's what it's like. It's like for me, what's actually the people that I've had to connect with and listen to help me out of where I was actually people who were in prison because no, I wasn't in prison. I still had freedom and I didn't commit any crime or I didn't, I wasn't being punished or anything. But, um, being isolated though away from society like that and not, I couldn't. If you guys read my article in Voyage that came out, it's linked in my bio below, my LinkedIn or not my LinkedIn, excuse me, my whatever it's called. You guys will figure it out. It's linked below. I can't. I'm so focused right now on this topic. I can't think of anything else. My link tree. There it is. But go check it out. But I mentioned that bio. I couldn't go really half mile away from my house. Or else I'd go in a full panic attack. I just didn't have the help I needed. I didn't, in terms of just the knowledge of anxiety. It took me a while to find that, a couple years to find that, and then even when I found that, I had to learn a lot of things. And it took a lot of courage too. When that incident happened to me in high school, my confidence got completely just shattered from that, and it still is rebuilding. I'll be honest about that. It still is rebuilding, and I think doing the show obviously has been a big pivot in my life, and and reconnecting with people and just realizing the truth. And one of the biggest things though that has helped me out past that video, right? Past even just that video, because even when I did that first video and I said how people reached out to me, I could feel that it was a big boost for me. But there was still a lot of it was virtual still, you know what I mean? Because at that time I still wasn't. That was like this first step of okay, I want to be free, right? I'm done with this. Now since then I've come a long way, and, and I could say I am free now. Now I'm kind of back to just in the restoration and just rebuilding of my life. Um, I don't want to say rebuilding, just kind of God's really molding me into who He really wants me to be now. Um, but now that I'm able to get out freely again and actually interact with people in person, I've been able to feel that kind of love. Somebody who's a fan of this show, who I first time I met him was a couple months ago, and the first thing they actually pulled me aside at their desk, and the way they just embraced me, but also just told me how that first episode helped them, how this channel has helped them, and you could just feel the love uh, pouring out of them and appreciation for that video. And it was the first time I was able to finally accept that and to feel that, and from somebody else other than people I knew. This was somebody random I did not know. I mean, I knew of them, but I never met them before. And I've had some other interactions like that since. And I'll just tell you what, guys, it's unbelievable. It's like you run through a brick wall after you hear these things, you had these interactions with people, and it's. I'll be honest. At first, it's kind of weird because you're not used to that, but it's very gratifying. It's very humbling. It's very rewarding. And it really has helped me a lot. But it's also helped me realize more. Back to what I was talking about when you're so full of fear, a lot of times what diminishes fear is love. And a lot of times a lack of love in someone's life creates fear, right? A lot of people in society today, you see a lot of people who are trying to run from that fear and trying to find love. And oftentimes when they try to go find that love, they look for it in the wrong places. And we're seeing a lot of people today looking for it in the wrong places. And so, and where did a lot of this start, in my opinion, was 5 years ago. Obviously, we had a worldwide event, a pandemic where we had to be, we had to quarantine in our homes, and a lot of people were isolated. The world stopped. It was something we had never seen before. Hopefully, something we'll never see again. And during that time, for a lot of people, it was the isolation and the having that much time when you're in boredom like that to sit and think about a lot of things, reflect on life, to think about things you really don't want to think about every day. It changes you, but also that social connection wasn't there. The way people used to communicate, a lot of things have changed since. People don't communicate like they used to. Post. I feel like social media it really took off after that. I mean, it was already big, but I think it became an even greater to where now social media is really the place where people go and communicate, and people think the communication through social media is like the real thing when it's not, because number one, there's no emotion in texting, but also number two, that you can't really get to know somebody like that unless you actually are with them in person. You're around them, right? Interaction's more than just typing and just saying things. It's actual seeing each other's physical touch. It's high heart. I mean, it's interacting with people, being feeling their energy. Uh, that's how we're made. But a lot of people since then, everything now is through the phone. And the scary part about that is, you look at all the things since 2020, how people are now. People don't really communicate well anymore. People are kind of spirits are really dull, in my opinion. Um, I'll be honest. A lot of people I even know, people I hadn't been around in years. I've seen them more recently. They're just their spirit's not there anymore. They just look like they're very dull now. They only communicate really through text. They don't call. They don't really have any desire to be around people. I've had people even tell me they're like this. They just totally straight out. They just don't like being around people anymore, and they just don't. What I mean, they're just their drive of life and just like real like what life's really about being around people and just community and love and support and helping others. It's just not there. It's really more. A lot of people are very carnally minded. To be honest with you, it's very carnally minded, and it's more of just I'm only putting myself out there if it benefits me. And it's very selfish. It's very um it's not healthy though. And so I got a video here from another YouTuber, a guy around my age who I really like, named Alter Ego Sean. He's really spitting a lot of game the last year, blew up on YouTube. And here's a little piece he gave from his latest episode I really loved and I thought was great. Talking about the same thing from 2020. Let's take a listen what he had to say here.
The same thing with the ability to socialize and connect with others. You know, my video I did on 2020, something about 2020 was it put so many different people in a state where they didn't talk to anyone or connect with anyone. A lot of people had a hard time going back to the same lifestyle they were living. And it's tough, right? Because you don't want to go back to the same point. Oh, 2020, oh, everything that it, like you don't want to go back to the same year and say this is where all the problems arise. But that was a major event for a lot of people where I thought I just saw something, right? But that was a major time where a lot of people stopped socializing, and then you're allowed to socialize and it's tough because you haven't done it. That was really, man, like I remember, man, in 2020 when uh quarantine happened, how like dating apps, everyone was on the dating apps, everyone was on social media. TikTok, that was when TikTok really started to take off. Um that was a big deal, in history where social media kind of replaced human interaction. You know, 5 years later, um, people still in a weird place, man. Uh, like me personally, man. Like if I don't, I'm not gonna lie. When I have to like get something off my chest or talk, I pray or talk to God. Cause I'll be honest, man. Like nigga, nigga, I don't have nobody. Like shout out to my parents or like some family, but y'all know how that be, man. Y'all don't be wanting to just talk to your parents every day. You know what I'm saying? Uh, but you know, you desire to connect and meet new people. You desire to have friends. You desire to have a significant other, and it's tough, man. Uh, being in a period of time where it's low key not possible for a lot of people. Um,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. I was muted. But and I agree with a lot of what he said there. You know, I, I mean, he said it best. So you go back to 2020, you look at a lot of things that took off back then: the dating apps, TikTok, and let's focus on those two in particular. So let's start with the dating apps, right? Now, I'll be honest, I'll be straightforward with you guys. I've never been on a dating app. I don't plan to be on a dating app. It's not my, just not me. I'll be honest. Nothing against it. I'm not saying what's good or bad. That's not for me to decide. I just speak for myself. I just don't. That's not me. Now, however, he talked about how a lot of that really took off. Here's the one thing I see with dating apps, and I say this as what I see with a lot of people now, right? Dating apps, a lot of times, it's a profile. It's your profile, and on that profile, you display who you are, what you do, where you're from, all right, everything about you. And it's almost like reading, like, if you follow sport, I'll give a sports analogy for you. When you look at a draft report, right? If I have the number one pick in the draft, right? And let's go back. Let's say this year's NFL draft. I had the number one pick in the draft. I could take a quarterback, and between the two quarterbacks, I got Cam Ward, who's got a big arm. He's this, he's that. He's from here. He threw this many yards in college. Blah blah blah. I got another quarterback here in Shador Sanders, who was all-time completion percentage. He's a son of Deion Sanders. Generates a lot of buzz for your franchise if you draft him. Right. I can go down the list of players. And that's kind of what a dating app is in a way. But I just think that's a false way of trying to connect with somebody. I'm not saying you can't meet somebody through a dating app. I'm not the person to ask about that. I'm not trying. I'm sure maybe somebody watched this video. Maybe they found their person who they're married to now through a dating app and they live happily. I don't know. But I'm just telling you, I don't think that's the first place I would go to look. But again, you go back to when everybody was isolated in 2020, when people got out, it's like he said, people were very awkward about, they didn't feel comfortable with social. Everybody's social skills were kind of off naturally, right? And so the first thing we go to look for, let's go on a dating app. And on that dating app, like I said, it looks like a draft profile. And I'm just telling you, when you look through that lens, you start to become very carnally minded because you really look more towards who is this person, what do they have, and what can they offer me, and can they give me safety in terms of. And I move on to TikTok now, and before I make this next point, so stay with me now. So again, it's dating apps. Like I said, it almost shows you like a draft profile, and a lot of times people look through that lens is how can they help me? What do they have? How much money do they have? What have they done? Right? What are they experienced in? What is their career? What do they look like? What's their background? Blah blah blah. You go to TikTok now. TikTok really took off in that era, and a lot of people use TikTok. I use TikTok to post things in the show and whatever. Um, our buddy Corey on the show, friend of the show, Falcons fan. Two of his videos went viral up the draft reactions on TikTok, right? And so I'm not anti social media. I'm not saying that I use it, but TikTok to me has been there's been a lot of positives from it, but there's also a lot of negatives. And I'm just telling you, a lot of the negatives, number one, a lot of the negatives is there's a lot of people out there that these whole influencer people now, they think they're important and because they blew up on TikTok and now they made whole lives and careers. Some people made lifetime money doing this. And I don't, but you look at their substance and how they got brought up, they didn't really a lot of people are famous on these apps now, especially TikTok, for literally nothing that's really important. That may sound mean, but I'm just being honest. That's a, but again, and it's only very few people that have found that success. Have you taken the whole population of people that are on TikTok? It's not that many people, if you look at it, that have actually made success from it and are become brands and famous people, whatever. However, there's a line to toe. And I'm telling you this as somebody who understands a lot of what happens in these industries from people I know personally and people I've heard of who I trust that I know have been in these industries. There's a line to toe the more, it's almost like this, I don't know the same, but it's like the more with more responsibilities and powers, or with more power comes greater responsibility. But a lot of times those responsibilities, when you're given that kind of money that easily, like on those apps, you're asked to do certain things. There's certain things you can't say, right? There's a line you have to toe. There's a group of people that pay you. Oftentimes, I'm not saying TikTok, but there's a lot of people though they have to toe a certain line. We'll just leave it at that. You guys know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, right? Actually lose a lot of freedom. But these people are promoted. There's a reason why they gain so many followers once they make it to a point and they start getting paid, becoming successful, because they're being promoted, they're being pushed, and they're being pushed to promote it for a reason. And a lot of times, these people, they portray these lives, right? You see these couple TikTokers. All right, we'll go back to the dating app now, right? And so, somebody who's single out, you see these couple TikTokers out there. Oh my gosh, look how great their life looks. They're up there dancing with each other, and they have this great house and car, and he looks good, and she looks good, and everything just looks fun. They're traveling the world. Everything's just great. There's no problems. I'm just sorry. The more you watch, the more you watch that stuff every single day. Number one, a lot of TikTok, it's vision. Number one, you see it. Number two, it's sound. Right? Sound plays with your emotions. You could feel the. That's why people listen to certain songs when they're down or when they're high. Right? Because those songs play into the emotions. Right? So you see it, you feel the emotion, and now you start to you see what I'm saying. It starts to get into your brain now. It starts to get into your emotions, taps into you mentally, physically, emotionally, and eventually spiritually. And so a lot of people on TikTok feel like, man, this is what life is supposed to be looked like. This is how it's supposed to be lived, I guess, right? Because everybody sat there in 2020 and life was not fun because we were all isolated in their homes, and a lot of people, like he said there, faced a lot of problems from that, being in that isolation. When they got out, it was almost like people were afraid. People were very insecure. People weren't as confident. People were kind of just fragile. And when you run into those are the first things you run into. And once you get out again and you're free, you can kind of see now a lot of reasons why people are the way they are now. Not everybody, but how why society in general, the way we communicate now, the way dating is now, the way what people actually chase now. And what it really sounds like is a lot of people were very fearful in 2020. And when they got out of 2020, they were so fearful, they were trying to find a sense of comfort. And comfort is through love, oftentimes, right? Going back to what I said earlier. And so, if you sit there and you watch that stuff on TikTok, if you go on these dating apps and everything is like a draft profile of like a player in the NFL, and that's the lens you're looking at everything now is, again. So go back to what I said earlier. The point I was going to make when I said, hold on, let me make TikTok thing real quick. TikTok point real quick is, if you see everything, as if you look at the person's profile, you see everything about them, what they make, and a lot of times that other lens, right? What you see on social media, what you see on TikTok of these influencers, people that, and a lot of times there's people they tell you there's so much information of, like, these are 5 red flags that you haven't read and they tell you 5 things. If we're talking in the dating world, right? You see these people, oh, here's 5 red flags, here's 5 this, here's 5. It's all these rules and regulations. But I'm sorry, these are people that, number one, never heard of them. If 2020 never happened, you never heard of these people. They'd be still back at home doing whatever. They'd be just no different than you and I. And number two, uh, all these rules and regulations and all this stuff never existed before 2020. It's all a bunch of bullshit. Like, it's not reality. But one question I'll leave, I'm just gonna leave it here with this side of the conversation. Why is all this stuff being promoted? And why was it being promoted around that time? That's a question you really should ask yourself. Don't be afraid to question things. Question everything. But moving back on to the point. And so, if you're somebody who looks through those lenses of, it's almost like you go on TikTok, you see, okay, and you sit and you watch that every day. And I know people who had to take breaks, little breaks from TikTok, even post quarantine, because they were just so addicted to it. Because again, when it plays with your mind, the visual and the sounds, you're trying to find that. It's almost like you think you're finding that connection and love, that you think you're finding that love through the app every day, but really you're not. It's a virtual reality. It's not real. But a lot of people think it's real. And so they start living their life through that lens, right? You stay with me now. You get what I'm saying. And so when you go on a dating app and you have that TikTok lens, you approach things of looking at people of not for the, you don't look at the contents of their heart and who they are. You look at it of, what can they do for me? And can they provide the life that I want to live? Right? It's a lot of I. And so we wonder why, you wonder why there's so many people nowadays who are married but really miserable. I know a lot of them. And I'll be honest, I know a lot of people who are married who even tell me I don't who, who have told me almost like, and I know them. I see the relationship from afar, and it's like you guys don't act like people who are married. Other people are just dating. It's almost like you just got married just because you feel like you had to. But did you actually like each other to begin with? A lot of times they didn't. But a lot of them have kids now with each other, right? And once that happens, you're stuck forever, at least for 18 years, right? I mean, there's a lot of repercussions when you allow your emotions and that worldly mindset, that lens I talked about, to control you. It may satisfy you momentarily or for a time, but when it wears off, you're stuck with permanent damage for the long run. That sometimes is you can't reverse it, right? And so a lot of this, though, like I said, is based out of fear. It's fear based and it's fear driven. It's people trying to find that love. And what's an example of somebody who was trying to find somebody who could provide their lifestyle, right? Who was trying to almost on that power, trying to find that sense of power, right? That they see on the internet, maybe post 2020. I got an example for you. Let's take Jordon Hudson, the girlfriend of Bill Belichick, right? Jordon Hudson, 24 years old, from Maine. Um, Before all this, she was a nobody we'd never heard of. Not I don't say that as a diss at her. I'm just saying she was nobody ever heard of Jordon Hudson before all this. I think she was a cheerleader. Her dad was a fisherman in Maine, and her mom owns and operates a sex toy shop and museum in Massachusetts. Yeah, so we never knew much about Jordan Hudson before all this, but you know, a lot of people obviously saw the episode. This is from my episode a couple weeks ago. It says "Trouble in Paradise." When Jordan Hudson did the interview, she wasn't an interview, but she injected herself in the interview when Bill Belichick, excuse me, was doing the CBS interview, and Jordan Hudson sitting off to the side like this. I mean, literally sit off to the side like this, looking like a straight just control freak, but um, literally sitting there hovering over the interview. And when the interview, the person doing the interview asked Bill Belichick, because this relationship is public and a lot of people are fascinated with it because he's 72 years old, she's 24. How did you guys meet? She shot it down immediately. And that raised a lot of red flags for people. And ever since that interview, when that got leaked out by CBS and TMZ put out what happened that day and how she stormed off the set for 30 minutes, a lot of people said, man, number one, A, that looks bizarre. Number two, she looks like she's controlling Bill Belichick. And number three, there's something weird going on here. And so a lot of people start doing a lot of digging into this. And there's been a lot of information that's come out since then. And Mike and I did an episode on this, I think it was almost 2 weeks ago, and I had a lot of people reach out to me. People I didn't know who watched the show regularly actually watched that episode and were fascinated with it and they really enjoyed it. So I said, why not double down on that today? Right. And so why not keep going in on this? Because I think it's a very important topic, especially somebody she's 24, I'm 25. And I think a lot of this has to do with what I was just talking about. So they met in 2021, post 2020. Like I said, I was going off earlier. Can we see an example of this? She's an example, in my opinion. He's an example in a way, but her more in particular because she was 19 years old when they met, and I could just sit there and imagine myself. She was 20. Let's see, in 2020 she was 18 years old, so she was probably locked in her house like a lot of 18-year-old girls and boys at that age. I was 20 at that time, so I was around the same age group. She was 18, 19 around COVID. Probably was on TikTok a lot. Probably was sitting there in her home. Sounds like the home she comes from is, I'm just being honest, based on what her mom does and owns, is there's probably some question marks there. Just being honest. She this is somebody who was probably very insecure and by her actions, and somebody who had a lot of fear in her. It sounds like, and I'm gonna get to that why. There's evidence of that fear in a minute. And so they say they met at on a plane from, I think it was from Boston to Palm Beach, right? And they were on the plane and they started talking. They sat next to each other, and he signed an autograph, and that allegedly they kind of stayed in contact since then. And then it came out also that Bill Belichick was in a relationship at that time with the same woman who was much older, obviously more around his age group. That made more sense for him. That was more, uh, it was more normal. And he was with that woman for 10 years. And allegedly, she convinced Bill to break up with that woman or pursue a relationship with her. So, number one, Bill was in a relationship with a woman already, and he was talking to some other younger woman on the side who was 19. And also, she saw an opportunity. And I think she saw through that lens of, hey, and I could say it's because before Bill Belichick, she was with another guy who was in his 60s, who was, I believe, very wealthy from what I've heard and what I've seen. And he came out recently and said, and defended her and said, oh, she's great, which is bizarre in itself. I mean, this story just gets weirder and weirder as it just keeps going on. But so she was somebody who was looking through that lens of fear and trying to find that sense of love through material things, worldly things, because that's what the phone has told her. That's what probably her parents have allowed her to hear, and based on what her mom does. I could leave that there. You guys figure that out. Just saying. She's got a very carnally minded mind. And she saw a guy in Bill Belichick, and I'm beyond Bill Belichick, a guy who was always, very uptight, everybody knew the Patriot way. Nothing ever leaked out of the building. Nothing ever, he was a very rugged, just kind of boring person that we saw for years. And I think Bill, made a mistake. I think Bill fell short with his flesh. And I think Bill saw a 19-year-old that he felt was at that age, at 72. I think anytime a 19-year-old girl, a young girl, kind of gives interaction with you, maybe in a more flirtatious way, which I'm sure it happened at some point, obviously, um, he probably thought it was the greatest thing ever, right? And so he started to think with his flesh and his small head instead of his uh, big head, and having some common sense. And I think Bill cracked. I think Bill made a mistake. I think Bill cracked. I think he made a mistake here, and I think he's trapped now. And Mike and I talked about that. If you go back to when we first saw all this, it was the Ring camera right here. It was the Ring camera that came out, and this is when the relationship obviously escalated. And this is Bill leaving her house at 7 o'clock in the morning. I believe it was 6 or 7 in the morning, very early, no shirt on. We all know what's going on here. And so, again, he walks out, he gets in his truck, and he pulls off. And we had never seen Bill Belichick like this before, right? Like, I remember the first time I saw this video, I thought, like, what is he on, like, vacation with his wife or something? And maybe, like, is he staying at someone's house? Like, what is going on here with Bill? This isn't the Bill we've always known. But then it came out that people were like, well, he probably was messing around with somebody. So I'm thinking in my mind, well, it's probably somebody younger, which is kind of weird, Bill. You're 70, almost 70 years old, right? And so, but again, here's the first question you should ask yourself. How does a Ring camera, the Daily Mail, everyone knows the Daily Mail, news publication. The Daily Mail is the one that put this out. How did the Daily Mail get that Ring camera footage? You can only get that Ring camera footage unless the homeowner, which it sounds like that's her house, that's the place she was staying at. And I know I think she was in a realtor or something, made a bunch of money in that industry, or she is now, whatever. I don't know if she was doing that back then, but this was her home. Okay. How did that Ring camera footage get leaked? Only the homeowner or somebody who has access to that account of that Ring camera can leak that. So why would that get leaked? And what's the motive behind that? And Pablo Torre, who's a great journalist, who's on top of the story, used to work at ESPN. Pablo Torre's been all over this, and I got some clips from him this week. If you might have saw the famous the podcast that he did that came out, I think it was last week, with a couple of people on there. I think it was Katie Nolan and somebody else, and they talked about this whole situation. Pablo Torre's had a lot of insight on this. He's been investigating this whole situation, and he reported that he had found out, obviously, that somebody from UNC said that they didn't technically ban her from the facility, but they kind of, after the CBS interview, and more people are looking into this, but they've kind of like, now they did put out a statement after Pablo's reporting that kind of trying to shoot it down, but people inside the building have leaked out. She's kind of not welcome there in the building anymore. Like, we prefer that she doesn't come in the building anymore. Kind of like a subtle ban in a way. Like, hey, you're welcomed here, but we kind of don't want you here because you're causing drama now within our program. And it's taken away from the football players and the program, which is most important. Not about you, it's about them. And so, but Pablo also asked the same question on a show. He said, "How did that ring camera footage get leaked?" And he's looking into that as a journalist. I'm not a certified journalist, but I do look at I've learned from people who are real journalists, and I try to apply those skills in what I do and the stuff I talk about. If you watch like my San Diego Browns stuff and the stuff I've done about the Browns, I understand a lot of journalism. And so a lot of times my mind, when I look at these situations, goes through a journalist's mind. And that was the first thing I thought of when I thought about all of this. Was I thought back to this ring camera footage, and I said, how the hell did that get out? And why did it get out? And when I see the way she acted on the CBS set of the interview, of the set of that interview, I'm like, all that kind of makes sense. They met post 2020. She kind of had that lens probably. She found a guy, an older guy. She dated an older guy previously. This guy, everybody, Bill Belichick's obviously got a lot of power, a lot of money, can provide a lifestyle for her that she probably feels she has to have. And then you hear about her parents' background, especially her mom. You're kind of like, okay, probably doesn't come from the most, morally doesn't come from the best background morally. So this is somebody who's very carnally minded and is seeking power and is seeking wealth, is seeking the lifestyle that she feels she needs to have, that she desires. And she is acting out of fear. And people think this is, I like how people defend this too. They think it's real love. Like, oh, love can be found at any age. I'm like, you got to be an idiot to think this is real love. I'm sorry. Real love doesn't sit there on the side, go to your spouse's work every day and be that controlling and that manipulative and that, just, I mean, you don't act like this. Please give me a break. And so, absolutely, there's no respect in this relationship, as you could tell. And again, how did this ring camera footage get leaked? Before I get off the rails here, how did this ring camera footage get leaked? That's the first question you should ask yourself, because again, only the homeowner can do that. And so I'm gonna get to some of these. Let me see here. Let me get to some of these clips here from Pablo Torre from his reporting. And let's hear what Pablo say. This is the initial report about she was banned from the. Let me find it. So this is the one that she's banned from the facility
since we last gathered. Number one, okay? Two sources at the University of North Carolina tell me that there has been a decision, was made last week by the higher-ups inside the athletic department that had hired Bill Belichick to be the highest-paid public employee, not just coach, in the state of North Carolina at $10 million a year. And that decision was that Jordon Hudson is no longer allowed in the football building.
Okay.
She is not allowed on the football field.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, don't think you'll be hearing much from Jordon moving forward.
Wow.
Dang, not in the
flippant.
building?
That's a little flippant. I feel like that is what is done with a distraction, and a team is within its rights to do that when it comes to external distractions.
Now, do we think, maybe we know, I don't know if we know, do we think this is like the athletic director at UNC being like, this is a problem? Or do you think it's Bill going to the athletic director and being like, I would really love it if you said this was a problem?
They said you can't come.
Yeah,
I would love to have you there.
Oh my God,
you're my cheerleader.
Who's got tarier heels than you?
You're my cheerleader.
You gotta be there, babe. But
they
Donnie's
are saying,
on my back.
Bubba Cunningham.
Is that his name? Bubba Cunningham?
Bubba's, you know the way
you know how
Bubba's.
Bubba can be.
Listen, he's tough.
I think
He
Bubba's
rides
jealous. I wouldn't say it to him, but I think Bubba's jealous.
Yeah.
That's my Bill Belichick impression.
That's really good.
That's ours.
Yeah, the most animated he's ever been.
So the theory of why any of this happening is a relevant conversation that I'm gonna ask you to put a pin in that.
Okay.
Because the second update is that Bill Belichick's family is extraordinarily concerned about what has transpired. One Belichick family source told me, quote, there is deep worry for how detrimental Jordon can be for not just North Carolina, but Bill's legacy, reputation, everything he has built and worked for over decades. End quote. In fact, the family has been digging into Jordon Hudson as well.
All right, I forgot I muted again. So that's what Pablo Torre mentioned last week about the banning situation went from two sources he had. Now UNC came out and tried to rebuff this and tried to shoot it down. But I think a lot of people tend to believe Pablo here, that the people in the building are leaking this out. Obviously, this is post the interview. And he also mentioned there that people in Belichick's family are pretty concerned and they're looking into Jordon Hudson here. And also his son, who I believe is 38 years old, I believe, who works with him at UNC, his son's wife has been seen commenting and liking certain posts that are kind of shooting or kind of taking shots at Jordon and kind of calling her out for what it is. So clearly, there's part of. I'm glad that Bill has people in his family that are looking into this and trying to help Bill. Because I'll be honest with you guys, when you look at it, and somebody called me on the phone who saw my first episode, the one we did, this one right here, right here. Somebody called me after this and told me a great point. They said, Joseph, I really thought about something with this. If you're right about going back to the ring camera thing, if the ring camera footage got leaked out from most likely her camp, somebody who has access to that, and it's got to be her or maybe her parents or somebody. What else have they got on this guy? Right, almost kind of like a blackmail thing. Like, what kind of control do you have on this person to where? I mean, I'm just sorry. And if anybody who's followed football and knows Bill Belichick for the last 20, 30 years or beyond, this is not the Bill Belichick we've always known. And it's almost like Bill made a mistake and Bill put himself in a bad scenario because he was being immature and thinking with a small head instead of his big head, and put himself in a bad predicament with the wrong person of all wrong persons, who is out for the wrongest of reasons and is out trying to seek power, really, like Pablo Torre said, that this is a story more about, not about the relationship or about her, about him. It's really more about somebody who's trying to gain power, right? And that's what this girl here is trying to do, because she has that lens I talked about earlier that was probably developed around that time, and she's trying to seek power. And a long way to seek power on somebody is that you control them, right? When you need somebody, when you need a person that you need that will help you seek the power you're trying to find, you got to control them, right? And her way, how is she controlling this man? Well, how did that ring camera footage get leaked? What other footage could be leaked possibly? And this is the person that called me last week. They made a great point. I thought about this myself, but we kind of were thinking the same language. Like, hey man, there's something really weird going on here. There's something really bad that's holding. There's something very wrong here, right? And every time you look at Bill Belichick now, he don't look happy. He looks like a guy who just looks like he got asked about it again today on ESPN, and he's just giving kind of mild answers. And you could tell he's just trying to reflect to the team, and I just want to coach. But this is becoming a bigger problem. When you start hearing the family of Belichick reaching out and saying, we're concerned, there's something wrong there. But also, people around Bill Belichick, his outside of his family, guys like Matt Patricia, guys like Josh McDaniels, all those guys who were part of kind of Bill's inner circle when he was in New England. Obviously, Matt Patricia now is the defensive coordinator at Ohio State. Josh McDaniels is back as the OC at New England. And Michael Lombardi, who was with Bill, is really close with Bill, has always been a close friend of Bill. He's also part of Bill's inner circle as well, that Pablo Torre put out there. And I'm trying to find the clip right here. I saw Pablo Torre also put out a video that some of Bill's close friends are actually kind of, they're concerned about, but they see it. Like they it's almost like when she walked in the room, they could see what was going on here, but they didn't want to get involved. All right, so here we go right here. Here's the video. It says about why did Bill Belichick, how come nobody in Bill Belichick's circle tried to stop this? And so here's what this reporting is here.
grow inch by inch. I can take this. I can take this. I can take. One source told me this quote, I watched her power grow inch by inch. I can take this. I can take this. I can take this. And the question then is like, why wasn't anyone in the way? Like, why was the power vacuum so empty? And the inner circle of Bill Belichick is a fascinating thing. So it used to be managed, his PR used to be managed by this guy, Berge Najarian. He was handling all of his personal PR. He was the guy who, as Bill Belichick, was very hard to deal with. He was very easy to work with, but ultimately they said nothing. And that was a good relationship. That was a safe relationship. He's now, however, the chief of staff at Boston College, leaving behind a group with whom Bill Belichick still has a standing pre-dawn phone call every single day. You got Matt Patricia, the former defensive coordinator of the Patriots, and also briefly the offensive coordinator. That did not go any better.
It's not.
We can also
Stay
mention
focused.
that Josh McDaniels is also in this group. Also, Mike Lombardi, longtime friend of Bill Belichick, former Patriots assistant, now GM at UNC. And these are yes men. So I just want you to imagine being Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is somebody who has been for decades incredibly insulated from having to live anything resembling a normal life. He has been a coach. He has been in charge. And Matt Patricia, as was described to me, like this is, quote, a doormat. That's mean as well. And I kind of feel bad about that. But these guys like are watching Jordan come in and they're like eye rolling. They're kind of like nudging each other is the description. But they're not telling Bill, they're not telling coach, this is a bad idea. So she comes in and out alphas everybody. And that's how, in a very short amount of time, in a period of months, they watch her take power.
We do seem to love, especially as an online public, we love a woman to put everything on. And while I'm not in any way saying that Jordan is innocent or anything in all of this, it does seem like a number of people were in a position that could have gone, hey, this isn't cool, but they were so much more interested in their access to this power that they let it get really bad and are now like, crazy, right? She's nuts. And you're like, yeah, you could have said something a long time ago and helped your supposed friend by telling him the truth of what was going on here. And now you're leaving it to us.
But
to do.
I would say it's tricky because even like, have you ever had a friend who had a significant other that you were like, oh boy,
yes,
this person is trash?
Yeah, I'm not
I would
good
say,
at this.
in my opinion, I'm like, I'm just going to wait till they break up. And that's what I'm going to say.
And I will say, self-awareness, I am on the other end of the spectrum. I have made people very mad.
All right, so we need to hear the rest of that. But what he talked about there was, and the point they're making is very valid. Why come nobody in Bill's inner circle tried to stop this? How come none of those other three guys? Well, one of those other three guys, one of those other three guys used to be on a show that I watch all the time, and that's the Coach JB show. Coach JB, everybody knows Coach JB with Big Smitty, his show over on YouTube. Coach JB was from the show Last Chance U. And yesterday on his show, Coach JB, Michael Lombardi, who was one of the names mentioned there. Michael Lombardi used to go, who works now with Bill Belichick over at North Carolina. Took the job there when Bill went there. They're very close, as you heard. And so Michael Lombardi used to be a regular on Coach JB's show, right? They're good friends, or were. And so I'll make sure I got the thing here for you guys. So Coach JB the other day on his show, they've been talking about this situation a lot, right? Coach JB made a joke, and the joke Coach JB made was, I don't really want to say it because it's very inappropriate, and I don't want to spew that kind of stuff on my channel. But JB basically made a joke that he would try to see what Jordon Hudson's all about, if you know what I mean, in the bedroom. And maybe he was joking and saying, maybe that's what we need to see that first. We need to see if that's why Bill's really sticking around, because it's just she's that great in the bedroom. It's kind of basically what JB was saying in a joking manner. And anybody knows JB knows he does this all the time. He's a jokester. But JB has also called this out and said this is morally wrong, this isn't right, and there's something wrong here. All the same things I've said today, basically. Well, Michael Lombardi, going along that point that Pablo Torre just reported on there, that nobody tried to stop this, and it's almost like they won't try to stop because it's like, I think Bill doesn't want it to be stopped, and I think Bill has instructed these people. These are the guys that Pablo Torre mentioned there, he hit the nail on the head. A lot of those three guys, a lot of them are yes men for Bill Belichick. Their careers were flourished because of Bill Belichick. They are yes men for Bill Belichick. That's what it is. And so a lot of times when you're a yes man to somebody, you don't want to disappoint that person, especially if you're Michael Lombardi, because he just helped you get a job. Because Michael Lombardi, by all accounts, I don't think was ever getting back in the NFL. He was just writing columns in the NFL. And so this was his way into college football and getting a job back again with his guy, Bill Belichick. Well, Michael Lombardi obviously has connection with JB because they know each other well, reached out to JB, and here's what happened.
Here it is.
Somebody texted me, thought that was distasteful.
Oh, really? Was somebody who you respect?
Yeah.
Oh, dang. Okay.
He's been on the show several times.
Oh, man. Okay.
Works.
What's your response to that?
Works with Bill right now. Huh?
Oh, man. I didn't even think about that. So do you want to apologize? You want to apologize? Like, I guess, how do you want to utilize this time? Because we do respect that man a lot. Great insight. So what's your take, man? Yes, Jason.
I responded in only a way I know how. I said, well, I think it's distasteful that he's dating someone my daughter's age. So, any want to talk about that? He didn't respond. So, anyway,
Man. So Michael Lombardi texted JB and said, "Hey JB, that joke was distasteful." Almost kind of like, in my opinion, he's texting JB as Bill's friend, and he's obviously closer to probably Bill than JB, and he's gonna always be loyal to Bill. He's a yes man for Bill. It's almost kind of like, "Hey JB, almost don't talk about this situation, and don't talk about it in that manner," because a lot of it's not really about the joke JB made. It's a lot about the stuff JB said that was real. And it's kind of like his response that probably really pissed him off because we said it's distasteful, as I think is a 72-year-old dating somebody who's my daughter's age. And so shout out to JB, number one, for standing on business, which he always does. He's from Compton. He's from Compton. He's an OG. Everybody knows JB. If you follow him, he's a real one. I love Coach JB. He's a great show he has, and just a good dude, you could tell, who's been through a lot. And he's not afraid to share his flaws, but that's who he is. Like, he's not backing down from his point. And his point is valid, and it's right. It's morally right. And for Michael Lombardi to go out there and act like that because he's a yes man for Bill Belichick, like Pablo Torre reported, it kind of really just it really validates a lot of this is what a lot of people think it is. Because why would Bill's guys, his yes men, be trying to go behind the scenes, trying to shut people down, basically, trying to tell them, hey, you shouldn't say that, when in reality it's right. And so again, you have somebody in Bill Belichick who keeps a lot of yes men around him because he is somebody who is a control freak as well, was a control freak in his organization all his years in New England, which everybody knows about. So it's kind of what you have two control freaks. She's somebody that's trying to control Bill, but trying to seek power to create her own brand and wealth, personal well-being, and personal gain. And then you have somebody in Bill Belichick who is trying to control the narrative of how maybe what really happened here and trying to hide something. But why is Bill trying to hide the situation? I think it's two things. Number one, because Bill doesn't want to lose access to in the bedroom. Let's just call it like it is. And also number two, I think Bill Belichick is afraid of something else coming out of all this. There's already been a ring camera footage brought out. That's light work, probably. Maybe if they got more on this. I'm just telling you, like I said earlier, when you have that type of control, there's something wrong there. When you're that, I mean, how is a 24-year-old girl, some nobody from Maine, telling Bill Belichick, a 72-year-old man, what he's going to do and what he's going to say and not talk about. What the hell is that? Are you kidding me? I mean, that's just not feasible. That's just crazy. It sounds crazy, and it is crazy. It looks crazy. It is crazy, but it's happening. And again, I mean, this is bizarre. You see the background she comes from. Obviously, her parents clearly have no problem with all this. I mean, her dad is literally at her. She was at the Miss Maine USA pageant over the weekend. You know, as all this stuff's going on, Bill's family's leaking out. They're concerned, and all this craziness is coming out about her background. She's up there. Let's go try to win Miss USA. And as you can see here, her father, as you can see here, trending. Bill Belichick has gone viral for sitting next to his 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordon Hudson's father, at the Miss Maine USA pageant. Hudson spoke to the crowd, quote, I hope those watching find this, or excuse me, I hope those watching find the strength to push through whatever it is and embody that hate never wins. So she's trying to play the victim card, and people are hating on me. And oh my gosh, it's just horrible. I'm trying to win Miss USA pageant. And number one, and the second thing, that's number one. And the second thing, her father, who looks like the age of Bill Belichick, he looks like he'd be Bill's son. And that's his granddaughter on the screen, but that's the actual person he's dating. Shame on this guy. I'm just gonna call it out. I've never been a father yet. But as a man to man and a human being, what the heck? Shame on you for allowing your daughter in this situation, number one. But also, clearly you don't care because you were, I don't know if his mom, and I don't know if the husband and wife I think are still married, but if they are still married, your wife runs a shop like that, museum. So clearly you don't care anyways. But to sit next to this guy, it shows you that she came from a background of no morals, no homes, really no real home foundation of what's important in life. It's really all more just about what's materialistic, what's about, power, gain, pleasure, right? Image, right? And clearly they really care about the image here because they're trying to control everything, like we saw with Lombardi and all these other guys. It's all about controlling the image, trying to keep everything looking, hoity-toity, and just. And I'll be honest with you guys. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of couples like this out there. I know. I've seen a few around here where I live, and trust me, it's the same exact thing. It's the same exact thing. A lot, and the guys may not be 72. They may be more in their 30s or 40s and are wealthy, and they get with a 27-year-old girl. But that girl, I've seen girls like this, guys. I'm just being, and guys like him, and they meet each other, and this is what it is right here. It's just not public because they're not known like Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick made the story obviously famous. Nobody knew who she was before all this. So, but I'm telling you, this whole situation here, it's all around us now. And again, a lot of it was based out of fear, right? Fear. And with Bill Belichick, I don't know if I'd say Bill Belichick was acting out of fear. I think Bill Belichick was acting out of his flesh and selfishness, but both have selfish ambitions. Right? Both have selfish ambitions, but the relationship itself is not healthy. It's not real. It's not real love. It's not healthy long term, and it's going to be a bad ending at some point. I hate to say it, but it's not going to end well. As public as it's getting, as much information is getting out, you can try to control and squeeze and hold everything together as hard as you can, but eventually you can't. You don't have the power to do that because it's based on a chicken coop foundation. It's going to fall apart eventually. And so, but again, look at this picture here. Shame on her father too. I mean, this is an absolute disgrace. I actually feel bad for this girl in a way because this girl, like I said, you could tell she grew up in a home that she thinks this behavior is okay because mom and dad probably acted in ways that made her think this is okay. I mean, look what her mom does, and look at her dad sitting here right here in the situation, not acting like a father. Because a real father wouldn't be sitting in that chair right now, and she probably wouldn't be up there. I could tell you that right now. And Bill Belichick wouldn't be in the crowd if it was a real dad. I could tell you that right now. And so, because I know some real fathers, and they already told me that they would that this would not be going down with their daughter. And so, in a way, I sympathize for her because she is somebody who's confused. She's confused, and she's got my gosh, her soul is being attacked heavily. And this is somebody who's very confused and blinded, very worldly. Uh, and it's very sad because, when this all ends and when one day, I don't think, if I had to guess, she's not going to become some famous person. I don't think she's going to be the next Kylie Jenner or anything, because she didn't come from a family or anything that really was known for anything. She comes from no foundation of anything that's notable to have that kind of public, you know what I mean? There's no real substance here. And so when all this stuff eventually wears off, where the relationship ends, and maybe she'll do a couple of media tours and make a name for herself, she'll have money and stuff, and she'll have media followers, and I'm sure she'll have some creeps who are that age group trying to get with her because they know she'll date that, but it's not going to be healthy for her in the long run because the damage has already been done. And I hope that, hopefully somebody could help save this lady, but I'm just telling you, you can have it all right now. And you can try to seek that kind of power. You think you can have it all, but it'll never truly satisfy you. And when all of it runs out and it doesn't satisfy you anymore, you get stuck in a dark place. That's a very lonely, isolated, painful place for a lot of people that I've never been there. I mean, I've been through things, but not because of anything like this, because of my own doing, or this is out of her own doing. This is somebody trying to chase something. It's like, you remember in Star Wars, the Revenge of you remember the Sith. Remember he was trying to gain all the power, trying to steal Anakin Skywalker, turn him into Darth Vader. He wanted all the power. He wanted the whole world. And at the end, he got thrown over the rails and he lost it all. That was it. It's the same thing. You can try to gain it all, but at the end, you actually get left with nothing. And your reputation's shattered too, which is most important. The things that are most important are shattered. And so it's very sad with this young lady. And again, my whole purpose for this episode today was how to find true love when you're so full of fear, right? How do you truly find that? And let me go through my, make sure I don't have any. Oh yeah, here's the last one I wanted to play from Pablo Torre. Shout out to Pablo Torre. An incredible job here with this. It's nice to see some people doing some real journalism still. And here's a couple more clips on her that I think are important. And it just shows somebody here who is way out over their skis, and somebody who's clearly on a power trip, trying to seek all the power she can get, control everything, make a name for herself. I mean, she's literally walking on sets of commercials and businesses. As you'll hear this one here. I mean, as you can see the quote here, the level of cockiness to go along with the absence of resume is stunning. So let's listen to this one here.
Might be understating the spiciness, honestly, at this point, in terms of how this has gone behind the scenes. Because number 3,
oh boy,
what I've been told is that Bill Belichick entrusted Jordon Hudson with the power to run his new media empire. Quote, Jordon was my boss. To quote another, the level of cockiness to go along with the absence of resume is stunning. And the idea that Bill Belichick may not realize exactly the damage he's done to himself and certainly his legacy, and also to his reputation as a coach. And so, yes, this will be a story about leadership and genius and privacy and discipline, and also, crucially, the illegal sale of injectable erectile dysfunction drugs.
Sorry.
Okay. Shout out to Pablo, though. And the last one he had here, I found this one to be very bizarre. Maybe is it this one here? No. So all this stuff's going on. That you had that terrible interview come out where she looks horrible in that. You're hearing all this stuff. His family's concerned. You're hearing about her background, his inner circle. Michael Lombardi's reaching out to JB. Her dad's sitting next to him at the thing. And then now there's more coming out about. Here's some more clips just to finish this off today about how she might have lied about her age all along.
Boston to Palm Beach, 2021. Belichick does fly commercial. He goes to hang out at the Golf Club of Jupiter. That's why he got to Palm Beach. At the time, he was still with Linda Holliday, who was his 15-year girlfriend. And Jordon was a philosophy major at Bridgewater State. who was dating a much older man whom we will meet later. The date in question was February 11th, 2021. And we know this, of course, because Bill Belichick signed
the inside of her philosophy textbook.
It was Deductive Logic by Harvard professor Warren Goldfarb. Feb 11, 2021. February 11th, 2021 is very important because of this other video that we found.
The kind that only comes from high.
Jordon Hudson, 22, Hancock.
Beautiful. If I may, beautiful.
That was the first runner-up of the Miss Maine pageant last year. That was 2024. How old she says she is. She is 22 in March 2024. So in February 2021, when they met on that flight using the powers of deductive logic, Jordon Hudson would then need to be how old? Michael Cruz Kane, who used to teach math to
19.
kids. Jordon Hudson, 19 years old.
Getting close.
Bill Belichick was about to turn 69, I believe.
Nice. Sorry.
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
You taught
Really?
math to kids.
With the embargo?
You're the one who taught
During
kids.
the
I'm sorry.
We did it.
I didn't want to
You
do
did.
it.
My
Something
God.
that I did came from the center of the earth.
Sorry,
I was
Pablo,
a vessel
please
for that.
continue.
I can we take it out?
We all thought
No, we're going to leave it in.
God.
But Jordon Hudson's age frequently has been miscalculated, misreported. The LA Times last week had her at 21 years old at the time of their meeting. And one reason, by the way, and again, 19, that's legal, right? I'm just trying to clarify the timelines.
Sure, by the law, it's fine.
By the law, it's fine to
But there are man has other laws than those that are writ.
That I believe is also a philosophy textbook somewhere. Have you ever mistyped your own birth year?
Not that I remember specifically, but certainly I've mistyped everything.
The reason I ask that question is because this is a question that has been asked around the North Carolina football program. And it has been asked because I've learned of an internal document that has been circulating around said program, a school directory, or let's say the wives and girlfriends of football coaches working at the University of North Carolina. You fill out a directory. There's your address, there's an email, phone number of kids, their names, and your birthday so that people can say happy birthday when it's time for your birthday. And Jordon Hudson put down her birthday on this document, I am told, as April 2000.
April 2000. So now we're getting a little older.
Or she did not put her accurate birthday.
Okay. So now, so back where we started. We don't really know.
We know, based on a preponderance of evidence, that her actual birthday is April 2001.
So it seems like the reason she's so sensitive about the book thing is because they didn't think through the fact that he was clearly talking to a 19-year-old, and now they're trying to cover that up.
That is a lot closer to what might be the Occam's razor of why.
Either you're typing it or you're writing it, right? If you're writing it, there's no way you write
this
00 instead of 01.
Was typed.
Yeah.
But on your phone, the 0 is not where the 1 is. It's not close to the 1.
And that is literally the argument that one of the sources that I spoke to at UNC pointed out. How the could you mistake a 0 for a 1 on a phone,
a crazy
on
little
a keyboard?
Detail. Yeah. And it's like you'd hit the same thing, or you'd hit the, yeah. Oh my goodness gracious.
So this specific mistake, quote unquote, feels instructive.
And again, you've seen all this stuff that's come out, and now they're trying to cover up a lie. And she's lying about her age, and they're trying to cover this all up, and she's still trying to run after that power. It's like if you had a ball with a bunch of energy coming out, and if she grabbed that ball, pause. You guys get what I'm saying? Let's say if there was a building if you're on a street, and there's this narrow road, at the end of this street, there's a building, and in that building's got all the money in the world in it. And along the way, it gets narrower and narrower, and more things try to pull you, and more things are push you off of that path. She's still trying to run down that road to get in that building. Through hell or high water, she is determined to get to that building. And so, but again, all these lies are lying about your age, lying about because you're trying to cover up how you actually met. Because why are you trying to cover that up? And we know why he would try to cover it up, because it looks terrible on his part. But why is she trying to cover it up too? It's because her motives are not for the right reasons. And you think with all this stuff going on that she would have not actually even went to the Miss USA. She wouldn't even went to the pageant, if we're being honest. But But would she want to sit out of that pageant for Bill's sake because she actually cares about Bill? No. And I know, and again, this is how you know she's acting out of fear, selfishness, and she's carnally minded. Here's what he had to say right here. Let me get this up here for you guys. This is right here. According to positive sources, one of Jordon Hudson's biggest concerns with the CBS interview fallout is how it might affect her chances at the Miss Maine USA pageant. Unbelievable. So take a listen here.
My take at the end of this is mostly that every disaster we've chronicled seems extraordinarily self-inflicted. It seems like a series of cell phones and also cell phones.
I was going to say cell phones.
Both. Cell phones chronicling cell phones.
Whoa.
Holy
That's
shit.
real eyes,
That's-
real eyes, real lies.
And I say that because I think there's a lot of a very young person. And by the way, Silicon Valley is full of such people, right? Very ambitious people with no sense of unintended consequences.
None.
This is a very familiar prodigy when it comes to the study of power. The real estate she took, she grabbed. And the thing that Jordon Hudson considers one of the worst case scenarios here as a result of the CBS disaster, which again felt entirely preventable if one were more strategic or knowledgeable about the industry, a parallel through line through so many of the anecdotes that we have reported, is that she has been very concerned to the point of explicitly telling Bill Belichick and others that this whole disaster, this whole episode at this point, honestly, is actively undermining her chances to win the Miss Maine competition.
And if you win Miss Maine, what do you get?
Well, she was the runner-up last year.
Surely a sash.
She is trying to win that sash this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
Hancock.
thing starts tomorrow. And if you want a twist in the next development in this script, I just want to point out that one of the contestants she is competing against happens to be a trans woman, and I think they have more votes than Jordon Hudson.
I assume you're jumping ahead to the next step, whereas if she doesn't win, this could turn into some sort of political stance.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't.
No, I'm not going to get into all that because I don't really care about a Miss USA pageant. Anyways, but I think she ended up losing anyways. But anyways, regardless of that, who cares about that? No offense, it has nothing to do with the show. But the point, what does have something to do with the show, was what he said there. What she was most concerned about had not. You think have you embarrassed Bill Belichick? Now Bill embarrassed himself too. He's put himself in the predicament. But how she's kind of embarrassed Bill a lot in the interview. And how bad it looks. And clearly they know that. That's why they're trying to go out and cover up all the PR and everything and try to hide everything and control everything, the narratives and everything, which she does already. And she did on the set of the interview. Now it's seen publicly and trying to hide how they met. You think you would actually forget the pageant? I'm going to go, if you actually cared about Bill, you guys would actually go, focus on other things that are more important that you should be concerned about at this time. No, I'm more concerned about my image and how it's going to affect me winning the pageant. It's just unbelievable. And again, this is somebody who, that lens, very carnally minded. That's what that lens does. There's lens I showed. 2020 created a lot of carnally minded people based out of fear. And I titled this today, "How to Find True Love When You're So Full of Fear." And I was going to give the reasons how to, but I'm actually going to rename this. This is how not to find true love when you're so full of fear. I'm going to rename this. So down in the ticker here, and I'll say in the title, it's going to say how not, in all caps, not to find, now how not to find true love when you're so full of fear. And so one thing he mentioned there, I'm going to end with this. He mentioned Silicon Valley. All the social media tech places that I talk about, they're all based out of Silicon Valley. Interesting. Second thing I'm going to point out here at the end here, and I'll give you guys this at the end. And this is very brief here, but how could you find, if you're somebody who is full of fear, how can you find that love that you're looking for in this day and age? Let's say relationally, right? Number one, there's people out there who are like you still. And I found this myself. I found this myself. I found people out there who are like me, and God has led me to them, and He's brought them in my life, and I've connected with them. So number one, there are people out there who are like you, and number two is don't afraid to do the right. Don't be afraid to be yourself, and don't be afraid to stand for what's right. You should never feel wrong for obeying God. You should never feel wrong if you're somebody who doesn't believe in God. You should never feel wrong for doing what's right and doing what's morally right. All right, you shouldn't feel punished or feel like you're not going to be rewarded for that, because you will. All right, God will, the universe will. You just sometimes it takes a longer to be like, or it may seem harder because you see all these things in the world are distractions. But we see when you look at that TikTok every day, when you watch all these things like some people like her and other people have, who are carnally minded, but you see them, it looks like they're getting rewarded in life and they're getting all the things, but it's not really real and it's not going to last, right? Don't pay attention to those things. That stuff's not based in reality. A lot of what you see in your own town now, when you go out at night and people are out, you see a lot of these types of situations now. If you really pay attention, right? It's not reality. Those people are miserable, right? Don't look to the world to satisfy you and to uh, other people. Really, to be honest with you, people in the world, and you can't. You have to start from within. And starting from within means what is really important to you, and what are you really looking for, and what is it that you really want in life. And as long as you pursue those things each and every day and take a step, one day at a time, you will find the right people along the way, because there's people out there like you, and you will find each other eventually, because it's almost like the universe directs you towards each other. It directs people, your friends, whether it's a relationship or a friend or a group of people, a career, whatever it is, right? Look how my life got redirected to where I'm at now. Anybody that knew me when I was 15 years old, I'd have never thought I'd be sitting right here today doing this. But I am here, and I'm glad I am here. But it's like I got redirected this. People that are friends in my life now that are very important to me. I didn't know who they were 5 years ago, a lot of them. But we're here now. We got directed towards each other, right? And so there's people out there like you. That's the second point. There's people out there that are like you and are looking for the same things you're looking for. But don't be afraid to be yourself. That was the second one. Don't be afraid to be yourself, and you never should feel bad for obeying God or doing what's morally right. And you will be rewarded for that. Even if society if you feel like you won't, see, you will eventually, because what you'll have will be lasting. It will be real, right? It'll be meant for you. And I got a passage here today, a scripture I'm gonna leave with you guys. I'm in with this. And so this is Luke 10:38 through 42. And it said, quote, "Now it happened as they went that he entered a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and approached him and said, 'Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore tell her to help me.' And Jesus answered her and said, quote, 'Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen that good part that will not be taken away from her.'" So Martha's in the kitchen, and she's working, and she's in the house. She's serving and trying to do all these things. She's getting distracted, and she's getting upset because she's working by herself. But she sees Mary sitting in front of Jesus, listening to Jesus, right? And as you can see there, sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word, listened to his teachings. But Martha's more worried about the other stuff. That it's almost like it's an example of somebody who's focused on the worldly things, and I need to hurry up. And you see, Martha's trying to get everything done. She's trying to control things. She's worried. She's fearful, right? And she's troubled about many things, like Jesus said it. Because he sensed it in her. He knew what was going on inside of her, and he told her, "You're worried and troubled about many things, but the one thing that's needed, that's truly important, what Jesus is saying is the one thing that's truly important, Mary has chosen that first." And so the last point I'll leave with you guys today is how to find true love when you're so full of fear. How to find what you're looking for in life is go to the main thing first. And as long as the main thing's the foundation, you will find what you're looking for. It may not be at the timing you like it, because his timing is different than ours, but it will be the right time, and you will find it. And I guarantee you it'll be more than what you thought it would be. And there's things in my life now where I'm seeing in my life unfold. It's unfolding now where I'm kind of like, man, I didn't expect this ever. I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't expect to be here. I didn't expect these relationships to be back in my life again. I didn't expect it to be like this. And I still have moments, guys, where I get down and I get a little depressed, to be honest with you, where I'm kind of like, I'm still wanting certain things in my life, right? I'm somebody who's looking for somebody still. I'm single myself. But I pray to God about it first, right? It's like what Alter Ego Sean, the guy, the video I played earlier, the first video I played, he said, when I get down, I go talk to God first, right? Where do you go first when you're down? Do you go to God first and talk to him and give him all your needs and look through that lens? Or do you go to TikTok and dating apps and social media and your phone? Because when you do that first as your source of comfort, you might end up like this, like that, and like that. That's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please hit the subscribe button on the way out of here. And like this video, comment below. Let me hear your feedback. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out of here.